Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet?
I love people as I meet them one by one. People are just wonderful as individuals. You see the whole...
My great aspiration, my greatest ambition is to be so good. Now, in that way, I'm tiresome, as I suppose, to live with, because I want to be a fantastic human being.
I am the greatest.
We're not disputing that, Cassius, but how does Sonny Liston feel about it?
He can't feel but one way, and let's take everything I say and like it. Because February the 25th, I'm going to take back my job. I'm the champ. He's no champ. He's a tramp.
When you see men fall, don't laugh. Learn. Learn. Because you're on your way up. And the things that tempt people to fall, you and I are not free from that temptation.
Yo, what up? What's up? Happy Friday, folks. Happy Friday. The countdown begins. A couple of more days before 2025. Oh my, how fast the time has gone. Passing it. I hope all is well with everybody. I hope you've been relaxing. I don't know about you, but me personally, I've had the last week off and just getting things done. This is going to be a fresh start, like a year of turning some stuff around, and I'm excited. I'm excited for the projects. I'm excited for the launching of this store. So many blessings. I'm just grateful to be with you guys one more evening. This is a different subject. I want to destroy off the forbidden path real quick. I don't know how many people take this serious or if they even entertain it, but it's kind of been in the back of my head for a while. I figured, why not? Let's go down the rabbit hole. Before we get into that, I'm gonna bring my co-host up. I am going to attempt to do a special stream for New Year's to bring it in. I don't know how that's going to turn out yet, but we're going to work around some stuff, see what happens. Shout outs to my writers, my poets, my content creators. You know who you are. YouTube still mad at me right now, so I can't stream over there as of yet. They on some bull. However, we still active, we still live. So do me a solid, man. If you want to support the channel, you can follow me here, IG, Rumble, Twitch, YouTube, hell, all of them. If you got all of them, let me go ahead and bring my co-host up though. Y'all should know her by now. If you don't get familiar, Miss Sydney, are you in the building?
Hello. Yes, I am. I'm very, very, very stoked for this topic. We get to see my inner conspiracy theorist come out. This is definitely one of my obscure secret interests, but I'm very excited for this discussion.
All right. And look, we safe now. Just to give a backstory, the stream that me, you, and Jason did, it got me kicked off of YouTube for I think this is at least for a week. I got a strike.
What did you say, or what did we say?
It was over the vaccine talk. Name dropping certain people. Yeah. They didn't
Yes, that mention, of course.
Yeah.
Shocking.
They said that we were lying about or putting out information or false information about medicine or something like that. It was, yeah. I've been down this road before with them with the same situation, but
So
it
much
was
for being open with debate.
right. I mean, I was talking to my sister. She was like, "Well, man, you should have threw alleged in there. That's what you should have did. You should have said alleged. You always lead with alleged." I didn't say alleged. I didn't like, but it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? They want to do what they do regardless.
Yeah.
They did this to me before though. On another video that I had did. It was a reaction video I did. And they said the same thing, made the same excuse. I had to sit for a week.
Oops, my bad.
But after that, I was good to go. And I mean, hopefully this don't be no longer either. And I have another backup channel just in case. But
yeah,
I'm not trying to.
Go play.
But I'm definitely this one right here. You know, I've been watching The Simpsons all my life. I mean, from as far back as I can remember. But when I was younger, I wasn't looking at them thinking about the 9/11 crashing into the buildings. I wasn't looking at them for being fortune tellers and all that stuff until you get older, and then you get introduced to YouTube and all of these spaces where they have all of this conspiracy theory content, and then that gets thrown into it's like, all right, so interesting.
I remember I got into conspiracy theories in it was like 7th or 8th grade, because I discovered Nostradamus, and I went deep into that rabbit hole of all of his proven predictions and whatnot, and I watched like all of the documentaries that were out on the History Channel and stuff. So I love conspiracy theories, because even though I understand the psychology of why they work with us, like what makes them so compelling, some of them are so uncanny. Like there are some conspiracy theories out there. I mean, some predictions out there that are so specific that it's very hard for me to discount it as just like coincidence.
When you let me I'm trying to frame this right. So how much stock do you really put into television predicting outcomes in our community on a daily basis, like coming into the next year, going back to even before we were born? Do you put any stock in it? Do you find that there's truth to any of it?
To any like prophecies and stuff like that?
Right.
There's two sides of me. There's one side of me that wants so desperately for there to be a mystical side of life. Like, I want so much for there to be like the possibility of magic and all that, so like prophecy, being able to like see the future and stuff like that. I want that to be true. I have a sinking feeling that it's probably not true. However, to an extent, for prophecies and seeing the future is technically possible, but you just have to be very observant and understand the patterns that life typically goes in. Because essentially the reason why prophets can be so well loved and seen as so effective is because they're able to make predictions that are able to be applied in various different ways. And so it would be easy for someone in the future to find a story that fits with that prediction. For example, Nostradamus predicted the death of a king, and the words he used was a lion goes down in the field of his peers, or whatever language he used. But basically, like, they equated him to the lion. But the idea is that phrase could technically apply to many other deaths. Like, you could say that was many other different kings. It's just in that time period, the death of the king that knew Nostradamus, that one was quite uncanny to them, because they're like, oh my God, he said a king was going to die, and the king that he knew died. So it's kind of a matter of us fitting it with something from our lives, that so it makes sense to us. So that's why prophecies are so successful, because, as I said, they're vague enough that it enables people to apply it to situations throughout life. And so they can last for generations and generations, because there will continually be different ways that can be applied to those predictions. It's also the same reason why we hold on to meanings such as like love one another and be kind to one another and stuff like that, because those types of phrasings are easy to hold on to for long periods of time, and like have different applications. But I also know that the more information you know, the more able you are going to be able to like predict things in the future. That's why AI has very specific predictions, because they are factoring in all sorts of patterns and things that are happening now and data points and all sorts of things. So they can tell you something of very extreme likelihood. So they're technically not like saying that's exactly what's going to happen, but they're telling you that there's a high probability of something happening. So they're not prophesizing, they're not like visualizing the future, but they're just programs or people that are very, very good at picking out the patterns and seeing where repetition is likely to happen. One moment.
You know what? So someone said that they're not psychics and they're not fortune tellers. They're pretty much people that are getting inside information before the general public gets the information, and they're just spreading it across subliminally through TV and through the internet and stuff like that. And I always felt like Hollywood and anyone in the industry always had an inside with certain details of stuff that was happening anyway, like CIA, the government in general. The Simpsons has been out so long, it's almost, but like I think about who was really still there left that was the original cast when Bart and Lisa was still young, and Homer was who was keeping the show going as long as it's doing, and then on top of that, who's writing the stories, the scripts? Because you like if I'm a screenwriter, but I'm not going to just pick up my pen and pad and start predicting or just writing random stuff about what I expect or assume is going to happen in the Oval Office. And then a couple months later, a couple years later, something happened. And like with them specifically, what always kind of caught my attention was how they would correlate The Simpsons speaking on something that happened 20 years ago or something, or like this cartoon is so old that they said this was going to happen 20 years ago, and 20 years into the future, everything that cartoon said was going to happen happened.
There is also the aspect, though, that one, they're probably creating these scenarios off of what popular culture has already like proposed as a possible future. Because we've been predicting the future as a culture, as a society for years. Like there are Victorian drawings in the newspaper where people would submit their drawings of what they believed the future would look like. And there were things like flying cars and communication devices that can travel across countries, that you can pick up a device and talk to somebody on the other side. So we've always been able to have a pretty keen understanding of where the future is likely going to go. And I think the reason why like Simpsons and a lot of other shows that are, I think like South Park and Futurama or something, like I know there's a couple other shows that have been a little bit notorious for also depicting events that ended up happening, but they also they want to illustrate the fringes and the extremes of society as well. And so it's kind of natural that they'd end up depicting our future, because the extremes are basically just the far end of what currently exists now. And so we're just going to continue moving to extremes in technology, in communication, in lifestyle, and then also the thing that I find interesting, like the disasters, it's there's always a lot of predictions of like, oh, the big one's going to be coming, this area is going to get hit by a wildfire, this area is going to get hit by a storm. A lot of those are based off of past events and disasters that already affected people in those regions. And so we're just projecting it sometime into the future, which in terms of disasters, with the way the earth works, it's going to happen eventually. It's just the predictions that get the most fame are the ones that happen to be made right before the earthquake or the storm or whatever hits. Kind of like that story I told initially when we were talking about my interest in climate change a couple weeks ago. My interest in climate change happened because they predicted a certain storm was going to hit New Orleans and was going to devastate the city, and it was going to be a certain size. They just didn't know when it was going to be, but it happened to be Katrina. But it could have been any storm. Maybe Katrina never happened, and then there was a storm in 2007 that destroyed the city instead. But it just happened to be that year that happened, and so it coincidentally triggered my interest. But that's kind of like the idea behind the predictions, is it's really going to pique the interest of those who feel they actually are experiencing it or witnessing it. And so it's kind of going to be self-fulfilling prophecy.
So, you said something earlier in the stream about AI being able to kind of gauge certain extremes.
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe, and I honestly, I don't think that we will ever get to a point where artificial intelligence would be so advanced that it can emote and understand the dynamics of emotions and interpret different influxes of feelings. But do you think that it would be able to graph out a timeline of occurrences before we even see it, based on the history and all of the information that it learns on its own? Like, would you sit in front of a television and listen to a clone tell you that such and such on March something is going to happen?
Yeah, in terms of like AI getting to the point that it would be able to control society, I think we underestimate. We don't realize how much power that it takes to run these AI technologies, and we're not at that level yet. We don't have the capacity to power much more powerful AI than we currently have. So we're currently limited by our access to power. So I don't think AI will get very much further, at least until we are able to invent that new power technology. But I do worry about the infiltration of technology into our life, because humans do have a tendency to be lazy and outsource skills to devices. And so I do worry about a future where we are overly reliant on technology. And I don't think it would be the technology manipulating us, but I think it would be the people with the technology manipulating us. And I think that's really the biggest danger, is whoever is controlling that technology is really the one that can do the most damage. And they could probably manipulate us with a faked future. Like, they could essentially say like, oh yeah, if they get control of the entire informational system, they could easily manufacture like, hey, you have to act this way because this future is upon us, and if we don't act a certain way, then like I could see that being a mechanism of control in the farther future, like decades and decades from now. But I don't think it would be a problem for the people like us. I think it might be more of a problem for like our grandkids, maybe, and their families. But it's hard to say because, I mean, we have discoveries every day, and you really never know at this point. Like, our growth is quite exponential at this point. So who knows what types of things we might discover in the next 10 years.
There's a lot of conspiracy theories out there. I'm like you. I find that side of the internet very fascinating. Just off the strength that I've never seen this firsthand. I've never experienced it, but you always have people that talk about it as if they were there.
I can speak to which predictions I think will come true, though.
Yeah.
I know one of the biggest that I think is, we'll probably see that in the next couple of months, but I think we're going to have a second outbreak of some sort. My guess is bird flu because of the recent events, but I could also see it being something else. They've also predicted another earthquake for California, which I would not be surprised because 2025 marks a decade when the fault shifts the type of movement it's going through. So it's going, before it kind of goes through a slower type of slipping movement, but now it's switching over into a more faster paced kind of movement. So it increases the likelihood of earthquakes, not by a huge percentage, but it's still like we're already overdue for an earthquake on all three sections of, or at least two of the three sections of the San Andreas Fault. So I can definitely see an earthquake happening, especially in the Southern California area. And then they also they predicted a Republican win. So they got that one.
They just had a volcano erupt. I can't remember where.
Kilauea in Hawaii, and then also one in Iceland.
Yeah, so
we're entering a 2025 is actually a shift globally. It's not just the San Andreas Fault, but globally we're going into a period of increased seismic activity because the Earth kind of goes in cycles of lower movement and higher movement, and we're now going through a cycle of higher movement. Same with the sun. So we're also probably going to see pretty large solar flares this year with potential, depending on where the flare is coming from, it could cause blackouts. And it's a very intense solar cycle. So if it does cause blackouts, it could be significant, but that it would just depend on like when it shoots off and stuff like that. But that's another thing we'll see stronger storms. We're going to be seeing stronger solar flares. There have been predictions for meteor strikes, which I've heard of different events. Like there's a comet that's going to be coming close to the sun. And then there's another meteor that's going to be passing by Earth in 2026 or 7, I believe, which is also going to be close enough to potentially drift into our gravity. But I think the most likely things that we have to look forward to is probably illnesses and storms. I think that's really what's going to be in the economic crisis. I don't know how bad it'll be, but I definitely think we're going to see some sort of economic downturn this year.
Weather, finances, and illnesses. Those are more feasible to me. I could kind of give a hint to that. But if you told me that Michael Jackson was going to return from the dead and start
An
on a
uprising.
cartoon. Yeah, like on a cartoon, that's something else. Like with the whole 9/11 thing, I didn't know that you could take a dollar bill, you could take a $20 bill, and that you could fold it in a special way, and it would turn into the actual Twin Towers explode on contact. So I saw it for myself, and I did it myself.
That's crazy.
But yeah, you can do things with the actual money that show you exactly what's going to happen. That is nuts to me. So that's one reason why I don't think that everything that is being discussed is dramatization. I think some of it is, but there's a truth in a lot of the insanity that people would look at and say, "Oh, you just nuts. You don't know what you talk about."
And it's just a matter of being the right person at the right time, because they're like, you see it with financial people all the time, where there's always those people that are predicting the next Great Depression every 2 years, but eventually they'll be right. It's kind of the same way, where it's just the people that are famous just for predicting stuff just happen to be more lucky than the other people that are trying to guess.
Yeah, I'm depressed. Shit, I don't know. I don't know about them. I'm depressed. Shit, go ahead and share some of that that PPP that y'all was capitalizing on, Lil Wayne and Chris Brown. I heard about that. Y'all ain't slick, but that's neither here nor there. You said something about comments and the sun.
Mm-hmm.
I already knew, like, it was going to get worse with the heat and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
over time, because I noticed it a few years back when we weren't getting snow and stuff. But if you just tell somebody, look, if you don't stop doing this, man, we about to be a microwave inside of a microwave, essentially.
And I think the other thing people don't realize is also messing with the climate. Yes, we could get global warming, but we could also trigger collapse. Like, if the earth gets too warm too quickly, it can also shut off different like the jet stream or other circulation systems in the atmosphere. And if that happens, it can rapidly cool a certain area. And so one of the ones that they are in the news about a lot now is the AMOC, which is the Atlantic Meridional Overturning Current Circulation. And it's basically off the coast of the Atlantic. And it's the reason why the Atlantic side of the country is fairly nice. Like, you get your cold winters, but you don't really get hot, muggy, terrible summers. But if the meridional overturning collapses, both Britain and New England are going to be dropped into a mini ice age. So probably for 200 to 500 years, possibly longer, depending on what else we do to the environment, or possibly shorter, depending on what we do to the environment. It would plunge the area to, like, it would kind of be closer to Canada type weather most of the time. And that happened before. It happened in the 1200s, I believe, and it was actually what they believe it may have played a role in the Black Death and why there was such a high death toll, because they had like really terrible winters. And so if you combine disease with really terrible winters, usually it's pretty hard to survive. And so that's also something that could happen. And that they predicted would collapse around 2052-ish. AI was the one that made that prediction. And yeah, there's a lot of other things that, sorry, my child just threw something down the stairs. There's a lot of other things that AI has predicted will happen if we don't do anything about the emissions problem. But it's also hard to predict per se what will happen because we don't know what people will do. We're a huge factor in this problem. But for sure, we have locked in a tremendous amount of warming, and scientists have recently realized they underestimated how bad the warming was. So it's probably going to be hotter than we expected. I imagine places like Southern California and Phoenix, like Arizona, probably the lower parts of Texas, obviously Louisiana, Florida, probably the Carolinas, Georgia, those areas. You're going to have a lot of heat waves, probably around this year through the 2030s. But I think, honestly, that's going to be the worst effect of climate change is the heat waves, because those are far deadlier than any of the other events that happen. You can kill millions of people with a heat wave, but with storms, if you have good buildings, you can save quite a number of people and only have a couple deaths. But heat waves are definitely dangerous because they test our city's very limitations of supplying enough power to keep people alive. And if you are trapped in a house that has no air conditioning and no power in the middle of a heat wave that lasts weeks on end, it's very, very hard for you to survive, especially if you already have an underlying illness, or if you're an older age, or if you're a young child. So that's one of the impacts that I'm most nervous for in terms of these upcoming years. That and our leadership in the country.
You gotta stay on the wall for these people at all times. Anybody who's in the Congress, who's in the office, who's at the Senate, it don't matter where they at. Pray, stay on the wall, intercede. They might not know you're doing it, but it needs to be done. What I'm trying to say, this whole narrative with cartoons predicting the future, I want to know what the source is. Where everyone is getting the information from. They have thumbnails. They'll have real detailed interactions with the cartoon character within the show. And it's not just The Simpsons, it's other shows, just like you just named Futurama.
Mm-hmm. South Park, I think, was another one.
Right.
Even SpongeBob, I think, to a degree.
That's a sneaky one.
Mm-hmm.
That's a sneaky one. There's cartoons that are supposed to be PG, but they hide little messages within those. You gotta be real careful with them. So I thought SpongeBob was supposed to be a child's show, but either we just make everything naughty, or it was always this way and we just never picked up on it before. But apparently, I'm looking right now. There was at least 1.3 million viewers tapped in for this whole Simpsons 2025 prediction. And so, yeah, what are we saying here? You spent all of 2024 gathering information that you knew was going to happen, and you're just about to come out with it, or did somehow you just magically looked into your crystal ball and
Sometimes people are just extremely, extremely well read, or what, like, they're usually, when people are very good at predicting things, it means they have experience in whatever they're predicting. There have been science experiments showing that, where luck goes up with skill. So that explains some types of predictions, like financial predictors and stuff like that. I just looked into The Simpsons to see if they said anything about it. And it does say kind of what I was saying earlier. This is a quote from one of the writers. If you write 700 episodes and you don't predict anything, then you're pretty bad. But eventually you're going to throw enough darts and you're going to start to get some bullseyes. Some of the predictions are quite crazy. He said the 9/11 one was super bizarre. In the World Trade Center episode, there was a brochure reading $9 a day with an 11 styled like the towers. That was in 1996, which was crazy. A super coincidence.
Coincidence. Okay. I guess so. I ain't buying it though.
Those are always the ones that I'm like, are you sure? Like, that was pretty specific.
Yeah. Because I remember I was in like, I believe the 5th or 6th grade at the time, and I'm all the way in DC, but we felt it all the way here. I don't know how that's possible. Maybe it's because of the Pentagon, because they hit the Pentagon too, and we felt the explosion from all the way over here. I can imagine what it's like in Gaza and Israel and all them other places.
Yeah.
But so let me, how much stock do you put in to these shows? Like, we turn the screens off, we're not on the internet, we not, and something comes on and they start talking about some stuff. How much do you put into it? How much will you believe from it?
Like Simpsons or a document? Like what type of
Just
show?
in general, just in general. Let's just say it was Paw Patrol, and they start talking about some stuff in the show that wasn't ordinary at all. And how much do you take serious, or do you just ignore it all together?
That one would definitely pique my interest, because I would be like, wait a minute, why is this showing up in this show? But it depends. If it seems like bizarre or something that's highly unlikely that some show is saying, I will take it with more of a grain of salt than if it's something that's along the lines of something I've already kind of thought to be true, or people have talked about to be true. Like if it's kind of in line with what I expect reality to be or to happen, I would be more likely to believe it. Like if somebody told me that we were going to have like actual like aliens, UFO aliens coming down from the sky and like taking over our government, and they were like, no, seriously, I know this is going to happen, I would not believe them. But but if somebody told me like, yeah, hey, your government's about to be, like taken over by a foreign country, I would totally believe that, because that's in line with what I see around me every day. And I would not put any country, like I wouldn't put that past a lot of different countries to do that. And so to me, I wouldn't find it very like hard to believe. So it really, really depends on who the source is and what they're kind of proposing. Because if it doesn't have evidence to support it, or if it's like totally far-fetched, it's way harder for me to be like, yeah, I'm on board with that.
Right. Area 51, are they aliens?
I have very complicated feelings about aliens. I find it hard to say that they don't exist, because we have a atmosphere that's literally so giant that you can't observe all of it yet. And so I find it like, we exist, so obviously it's possible for life to exist in the universe. So I find it very, very unlikely that there's no other life on this planet, on this in this universe. But at the same time, there's also that part of me that's like, but if it's possible to create life spontaneously like that, why aren't we seeing it anywhere else? But then I also kind of think, well, maybe they're just kind of in the same position as us, where they are smart and living and colonizing their planet and whatever, like they're a sustainable society like we are, but they're just not capable of leaving their earthly bounds. And also there's that aspect of like, well, do we want to know? Like, do we actually want to know that there's life forms out there? Because if we know that they exist, the chances are they probably know we exist. And what are the potential problems of bringing aliens to our planet? Like, what is going to happen? Because if you are, for one, if you have aliens that are able to travel to our planet, chances are they're not friendly. Because if you're powerful enough to go to another planet, you're not coming to the planet to be like, oh, hey, what's up? I just wanted to see what was up here. Like, no, they're going to kill us. They're going to eat us. They're going to steal us for science, or they're going to destroy us, because that's what you do when you go to a different land. You take it over and you take it for yourself. And if they're more powerful than us, we're screwed. And then also, maybe they're somehow friendly, or we're lucky and they're harmless. Still, what are they going to carry on them? What type of bacteria, what type of viruses that we've never, ever, ever experienced in our galaxy, in our entire existence? What's that going to do to us? Like, we don't know what they're bringing with them. And even if they are friendly, they could accidentally kill us. Like, what if their skin is covered in like asbestos or something? Like, I don't know. They're foreign life forms. They could be crazy. Like, we have no idea. So it's kind of foolhardy that we're trying to contact, like we're sending signals out there to see if we can find other life forms. I'm like, do we really want them to know that we're here? Is that really a good idea? I'm like, the Native Americans saw what happened when people came to the land that they owned, and it did not end well.
And the thing is, if we have the technology to go to the moon, then who's to say that they don't have the technology to come here?
Yeah. And also, my other, just a different platform, but my gripe, why are we spending so much money and time trying to figure out how to go to and terraform another planet? Why don't we just work on the one that we already can live on? Like, why are we spending so much of this energy on Mars and the moon and all these other planets when we literally have a perfectly usable planet right now that all we have to do is make it, like, tweak the way that we live our lives and to fix it. Like, we don't have to figure out housing and figure out gravitational forces on our bodies, and we don't have to figure out transportation to get there. I'm like, we're already here on Earth. I've never understood all the billionaires pouring their money into going to Mars, when I'm like, you could just pour your money here on Earth so we could live on it and not destroy it and still use it. Like, is it that hard? I just don't get it.
It's funny to me because, you know, the people who don't have the money, if they had the money, they would actually use it for the right reasons.
Mm.
Billionaires and millionaires, it seems like they get bored because
Yeah.
they already got everything they want. They need more. They need to do something with. It's like a dude going to the strip club. You just wasting your money, just throwing it for no reason.
Yeah.
But also, it's a conquering thing. I want to be the first to discover this, and I don't know. It's like you want to screw up one thing and then go somewhere else and screw up something else. That's crazy to me. It's absolutely nuts. I don't even understand the point of all of that money going there anyway myself. Because the thing is, it's like, all right, what's the point? Are you telling me that you're trying to get us there, where you're trying to build an entirely new world somewhere else? What are we suggesting? What are we really getting at here? I don't know. I say leave well enough alone. Leave well enough alone. As far as Area 51, I know they've seen some stuff, and I know that they've messed around and experimented with some things too.
And from what I've learned, they did recently declassify most of the documents from Area 51, and they were using it basically for secret aerial weapons testing because they had plane bombers, and like stratospheric stuff that like way up so you can't see it, and they just didn't want to disclose that information because at the time we were at war or Cold War with Russia. I know a lot of people won't want to believe that, but I mean, I can see where the conspiracies come from, but comparing the sightings to the documents that they released and stuff, it does make sense why people would believe they saw aliens, because the bombers definitely looked like UFOs. They were like saucer-ish shaped, but they were more like pointed like that. And then they had like lights on the bottom. And I was like, yeah, that definitely does look like a UFO. So I could see why people would think that.
Going back to just being a kid, talking about aliens and seeing flying saucers and all that stuff. It used to freak me out when I was younger. Now it's not so much. I just see a regular plane going by or a jet or something. But I'm not gonna say it's real or isn't. It's like I'm not gonna say Bigfoot doesn't exist. Because first of all, we haven't been everywhere on this planet. I don't care how much you go on expeditions. I don't care how often you travel the world. You have not seen every part of this earth
I mean, the fact that we have a second ocean that we have really not really explored. Like, can you imagine if we have creatures that live in the second ocean that we've never ever even seen before?
I believe that is true. I believe it's possible. I don't put nothing past that. I mean, come on, it's the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like going to space. You don't even know if there's an end to it or not. Does it stop anywhere? Is there a border? Or does it keep see the different at least with the ocean, you know there's a bottom. With space, you don't know where it stops at.
My
That's
theory is that we are basically just like bacteria living on the cells of another organism. Like our planet is just a cell floating in the body of something like way, 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 way bigger than we could ever even conceive. And that the planets and the stars and all that stuff are just the stuff floating around in our bodies that we would say like blood cells and white blood cells and all that stuff. That's what we're seeing.
I like that metaphor. Never thought about it like that.
Because that would kind of explain how we could have different levels of the universe and like the I won't get into it because I know we don't have that much time, but like it also kind of fits with my belief of souls and the afterlife and um what do you call it, when people like can remember having a past life and stuff like that, like reincarnation. I just kind of think we're all part of one bigger organism because if you look at it, all animals operate with the same brainwave types, basically. Like we all kind of operate on the same level. And then also water is the one thing that connects all living things across the board. If you are living, you're going to have water in you. And they've already proven that water has memory, water has the ability to hold information, water has the ability to hold emotion. So I strongly believe that like water itself is the essence of life. Like whatever life is, like water is related to that and they're interconnected. And that's kind of like the common connection through the whole universe. Like you just get like the things that we see, the microscopic things, like those are just the planets for something even smaller. Our bodies are something else's galaxy.
I wonder what a painting would look like if somebody tried to capture what you just described.
I've seen something similar, but it was more like a zooming out one. Like he would zoom into his picture, and then as he would zoom out, that picture became just like a small portion of an even bigger picture, and then it continued. Like he just kept zooming out, and it was another world and another world and another world. It was crazy. It was on Instagram, I think, so I'll have to find it. It kind of feels like that. Where you just keep zooming out, but you never stop zooming out.
That's dope. That's dope. My take, my final thoughts, at least. I think there's some truth to some of these shows, just like movies. I don't believe they're psychics. They could be getting their information from demonic spirits. I don't know if it's necessarily divine, but I do believe that a lot of these shows are prompted by a reality that has happened before. and that is connected to something that us little people don't really know too much about. The Simpsons has been on for a very long time, and that's for a reason. I think I'm about to be 41. That show has been on since I was born. I can't imagine. I can't imagine just stumbling upon. Oh, no, this is it. Oh no, we just happened to stumble upon it. It was just a coincidence. I don't think everything is a coincidence. That's just my take.
Yeah, as I said, I'm a sucker for conspiracy theories, so I'm always down to be like, yeah, what's the predictions for this coming year? Let's talk about what's going to happen, because I just find the psychology of disasters to be quite fascinating. I think disasters really show you the real sides of humanity, and I think that's when people are truly themselves in both ways. Like, obviously the bad side, but I think you truly get to see the best of people in disasters as well. And I've always been enamored with the stories of people rising up and coming together as a community, and lifting each other up on their shoulders and being there for their fellow community members. The stories of people saving others. I just think it's amazing. So even though I always love to try and predict disasters and whatnot, because I just think it's so cool to be like, see, I told you this was going to happen. I do always hope for the best for people, and I do always hope that even when we have these disasters, I always hope that they're learning lessons rather than tragedies, because I think learning lessons are the ones that we can come away building our communities better and stronger in the future, rather than repeating these disasters that can be predicted in the future. Because I think that's really the problem. Like, that's why we're able to predict these things, is we innately know when we have been setting the dominoes up wrong. We know when things are about to fall. I think we can sense it, even if we choose to ignore it or choose to live our lives as if it's not happening. I think we innately know that there are things that are kind of leading up to a fall. And so I think really that's in The Simpsons and in all of these predictions that we see on TV. It's a reflection of us and what we feel